From the KFDI News Center, this is a severe thunderstorm warning.
We've got a severe thunderstorm warning in effect now for Sedgwick County, southern Reno, all of Harvey County, all of Kingman County, northwestern Butler County until 8 o'clock. We've got this line of storms moving through Reno County right now along Mound Ridge to Hutchinson to near Sylvia and moving southeast at 30 miles an hour, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. We've had some reports of some wind damage in Reno County, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts there. So very strong storms. Now, they're not really that close to Sedgwick County yet, but the Weather Service is getting ahead of this because this line is pushing on to the southeast. So this is a line that really extends from Stafford County up through Reno into Hutchinson, on up into McPherson, Marion, into Chase County, all the way up into the Manhattan area. And this entire complex is pushing to the southeast. Thunderstorm wind gust of 57 miles an hour at the Newton Airport in Harvey County. Tree falling on power lines a mile northeast of Hutchinson in Reno County. Wind gust of 62 miles an hour at the Hutchinson Airport. We did have a report earlier of a large tree falling on a car and 4 people injured. That's 5 miles northeast of Hutchinson. So emergency crews have been on the scene there. We've had reports of power lines down and trees down in Hutchinson from these strong winds, and we've had 60 to 70 mile an hour winds reported across the area, and even in some cases up to 77, close to 80 mile an hour winds. Here's an update on our warning for Sedgwick and Harvey counties. These storms along a line from Heston to near Haven to 5 miles southeast of Sylvia, and they're moving southeast at 30 miles an hour. And again, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail expected from this storm. And this is going to be moving into the Wichita area. Certainly will be starting to move into the Mount Hope area here. It looks like the leading edge of this storm activity starting to move into extreme northwestern Sedgwick County. Let's see if we can check back in with KWCH and Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Ross Jansen.
Well, George, I'm just trying to figure out exactly where the strongest winds appear to be with this storm. And there's a couple features that stand out to me on the radar. To me, it looks like we've got a little bit of a gust front that stretches from south of Pretty Prairie over to Andale and Colwich, and the winds with that might go up to about 20 or 30 miles per hour, so that's not really a huge deal. But where we're getting all these 50 to 60 wind reports appears to be up there around Haven and the eastern part of Reno County, and so I see that core of wind coming down into Sedgwick County here very soon. I'm just going to put a quick storm track on my end to figure out exactly when some of that will be coming into the area. Just to give you a better idea of when we can anticipate some of these stronger winds to arrive into Sedgwick County. And once again, the strongest winds are up there in the Haven area. And if we progress the storms to the southeast about 30, 35 miles per hour, I think we could see some of those 60-mile-per-hour winds coming into the Andale area within the next 20 minutes. Mays at around 7:35. Wichita likely to happen between about 7:30 and 7:45. So that's about the time that we need to be prepared for the 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. Now, once again, it's not a guarantee that we'll see here in Sedgwick County what they're seeing in Reno County, but based on the history of these storms, we want to be prepared for those kinds of winds. And certainly 60 mile an hour winds can do some damage. We've already had reports of that in the city of Hutchinson. In fact, the fire department is responding to a lot of power lines that are down kind of in different areas throughout the city of Hutch. Those strong winds now in the Haven area and coming down K96. So we should start to get some strong winds into Mount Hope within the next 10 to 20 minutes. And then if the winds are going to continue to be a problem, which we have every reason to believe that they probably will, we'll likely start to see some strong wind reports in the northwest corner of Sedgwick County within the next 15 minutes. And for the city of Wichita, I think it's easily going to be 7:30 or shortly after when we might start to see some of that wind getting into this area.
And we continue to have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect across south central Kansas, Reno, Sedgwick, Harvey, Butler, Kingman, northern Cowley, and even into Elk and Greenwood counties, northern Sumner. These warnings in effect at least until 8 o'clock through 8:30 for some of the counties to our south, and just a number of overlapping severe thunderstorm warnings. What we have is a line of storms moving from Stafford County through Reno into Harvey and and Sedgwick County, pushing into Wichita right now, and we're getting reports of winds kicking up dust. We'll go out to the mobile units here in a moment. Through northern Butler County, that'll be pushing into El Dorado, through Marion and Chase counties, and on into Lyon County. If you're on the Kansas Turnpike, you may have to pull over and wait this storm out. But the main thing from this, 80, possibly even 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts from this particular storm. Very strong winds, very dangerous storms. We've had reports of tree limbs down, power lines down, semis blown over, tree damage, and some power outages that are being reported as well. We'll be checking on that here shortly. Let's go out to our mobile units. They've been experiencing some of this wind out there. Let's go to them now.
Will Day in Mobile 22, eastbound on 21st Street, coming closer back up to 135th Street west. And the wind is really the issue with this storm. I've seen some significant wind and wind gusts, sustained winds of easily 60 miles per hour, gusts even stronger than that. I've watched old growth trees that are easily 30, 50 years old, being pushed down like they're just blades of wheat in a field with the wind gusts that have come through, just really pushing those trees around. I've seen several trees with large branches down in the roadway that have had to be removed. And again, those wind gusts just very strong. A lot of people out and about right now up in northwest Wichita. Really, you need to be taking shelter immediately. Those gusts are very strong. You don't want to be out driving in them. But if you are caught out, go ahead and point your vehicle into the direction of the winds to kind of keep your vehicle upright. These winds could knock over a vehicle, especially if you're traveling at a high speed and you have a high-profile vehicle like an SUV or larger. So if you do not have to be out, please stay at home or stay where you're at. Take shelter as this pushes through northwest Wichita right now with these extreme winds. Let's check in with Matthew Harding, who's in Mobile 24.
And Will, I'm at 235 in Meridian, parked in an open parking lot facing northwest, and I can see the tops of some of these fully grown trees bent over at 45 degrees. These winds are easily 60 to 65 miles an hour in this area. The lightning is continuous, but it is a cloud-to-cloud lightning. Like you, Will, I have seen a lot of motorists out here this evening, and that is very dangerous. Again, you need to get where you're going and stay there at least for the next 30 to 45 minutes. Let these very strong winds roll through, and then you can go on about your evening. But right now, very, very strong winds in the area of I-235 in Meridian. Let's go to Jacob Weston now in Mobile 21.
Making my way back through Keachai right now, a little north of 254. Winds and rain have picked up a little bit. We've got some wind gusts maybe around 40 miles an hour, but nothing much higher than that at the moment. I've seen some tree limbs down in the roads, but they did appear to be dead and not green like a lot of the trees are. But the rains have been heavy enough. I've come across some street flooding in a couple areas, so that's definitely something to watch out for, especially out on some rural roads and low-lying spots. You could come across some roadways. They're starting to fill up with water. I've had a few peaks of hail here and there, just maybe 5 or 6, nothing too big. Certainly say nothing larger than pea size. They were small enough, they melted pretty quick, so I wasn't able to get a good look at them. But I've not run into any hail bigger than that. And again, that was just a few peaks. So luckily, not much hail, if any, as this storm moves through. I'll continue to stay up here, though, and watch out for any more damage that the storm could bring through with it. At Mobile 21, Jacob Weston, KFDI News.
And George Lawson back in the KFDI Weather Center. Severe thunderstorm warning still in effect until 8 o'clock for southern Reno and Sedgwick, Harvey, northwestern Butler, Kingman counties. This line from Valley Center to near Garden Plain to west of Kingman, moving southeast at 30 miles an hour, could have 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. And we've had reports of 85-mile-an-hour winds in the Wichita area, in West Wichita especially. Looks like from looking at this on radar, it's pushing through the northern half of Wichita to Kellogg and maybe just a little bit south of Kellogg. Hearing some reports of lines down out there is not surprising. We've had reports of power poles down across central Kansas, semis blown over. And Jake Bowles has been keeping track of a lot of this at the storm desk. Jake, what are you hearing?
Yeah, speaking of those power outages, Westar Energy right now is reporting that in south central Kansas, about 7,400 customers are without power. That's about 3,900 customers without power in Reno County, 1,000 in Butler County, 1,500 in Marion County. You can report power outages on Westar's website. If you go to westarenergy.com, there's a button to get to their outage map.
Let's see if we can check in with Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Ross Jansen. Ross, what's the latest you're seeing from this line?
Blinding rainfall here in the city of Wichita and and winds that continue to be anywhere from 65 to 75 miles per hour. It's a part of a big complex of storms that goes about as far west as Pratt, and it does extend down toward the Medicine Lodge area. But what we're seeing in and around Sedgwick County continues to be not so much in the hail form, but it continues to be significant wind that's moving across the city as we speak. If you're out there driving around in Wichita, no doubt you are seeing the blinding rainfall. You're probably experiencing some winds that might be up around 60 miles per hour. It has been probably about 15 minutes now since we've had any winds of 80 miles an hour reported, but we're also still getting some reports of 65 now from 21st and Amadon. We had a report measured to 65. That was out near Eisenhower National, and now the strong winds are getting south of the city. So I would say from around the Cheney area, of course, western Sedgwick County, down toward the Clearwater area, over toward about the Hayesville vicinity, and as far south as Mulvane. That is the leading edge of some of the strong wind that continues to move on to the south. So it's now the southern half of Sedgwick County that needs to be bracing for some of those strong winds, because we're starting to see it push to the south of the city of Wichita and continue to move on to the south at speeds of about 30 to 35 miles per hour. When you start talking about winds over 70 and 80 miles an hour, now you're starting to talk about damage that can be similar to that of a weak tornado. And we're getting several reports of power lines that are being snapped, power lines that are down, and of certainly tree branches just that can't stand up to that kind of wind. And as these storms continue to move to the south, I want you to know who's next in line. So I'm going to put a quick storm track here on the leading edge of some of the strong winds. And as it continues to move south at just over 30 miles an hour, Belle Plaine at 802, the Wilmot area at 812, Mulvane at 814, Winfield at 823, Arkansas City, maybe the storms get to you at around 842. We don't expect there to be a lot of hail with this storm, but we definitely have some very strong winds that is creating some big problems out there tonight. And I do see another wind report that's coming up here in the storm center, and this is now 60 to 65, and nickel-size hail reported near the Andover area at about 744. That's the first hail report that I've seen in probably 30 to 45 minutes. But once again, this is 60 to 65 winds now reported near the Andover area, and that's the core of strong wind that's continuing to move through the southern half of Sedgwick County and the southwest corner of Butler County. So there's still a lot going on out there tonight. Fortunately, around Wichita, most of what we're dealing with is significant wind. The hail that we're looking at is occurring with storms back into portions of Harper County near the Anthony area, and certainly back to the west into portions of Barber County. And as we speak, I do see another wind marker coming up here on the screen. This is to the north of Anthony and Harper County, indicating winds of 70 to 80 miles per hour. That again out of Harper County. So lots of wind out there tonight, some hail. The hail that we're getting, most of which is occurring now in eastern Pratt County and western Kingman County, continues to be quite significant. But all of these storms, at least for the most part what's around Wichita, continues to move south, while storms in the Harper County area show more of an eastward movement.